What's up, everybody? Welcome to another summer edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code Daily365. That's Colby Cohen across from me. I'm Jonny Lazarus. We got a great interview today with Buffalo Sabres star Tage Thompson. Not going to waste too much time, but I will say what's up to my co-host over there first before we bring him on. Colby, what's going on with you?
Not
you
much,
look very
man.
distraught right now. What's good?
Summer is winding down, and
US Open.
Seems once July 4th weekend happens, I feel like the rest of summer just absolutely flies by. So excited to have Tage on the show today. This is a guy who's kind of been all over the place with hockey, so I have a lot of questions for him about it. So welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Fresh off his first Jewish wedding, we're going to start with that one. We got to shout out our buddy Max Calter first because, I think he'd be listening to this waiting for that shout out the entire time. So I don't want to make him sweat it out. But what were your thoughts on your first Jewish wedding? Because I joked about it after. We might get a back spasm report week one of the season from lifting the chair up 10 feet in the air. I don't know if that's something we can leak on here.
Yeah, Colts was telling me I wasn't ready for it, and I think he was right, actually. It was a lot of fun. I mean, never been to one, so I was kind of just thrown right into the mix there. A lot of dancing, a lot of chairlifting, so it was a good time.
But you spent a bunch of time in Long Island when you were younger. Well, you never went to a bar mitzvah living in Long Island?
No, I didn't. I think I just missed it. Like, what is it? It's 13, right? Bar mitzvahs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I was like 15 and 16 when I was Long Island, so I just missed it. But
okay.
I'm guessing those are just as electric as the weddings, or are the weddings another step? Probably another step.
Just
alcohol, like a little extra.
Yeah, I don't think any 13-year-olds are getting drunk.
Well, I mean, a lot of kids I feel like are walking around at those things just polishing the end of people's drinks. I know that happened to my younger brother at a couple of those things. But like when I looked at your hockey DB, the first thing, not your hockey DB, excuse me, your elite prospects. The first thing that kind of threw me is you go from the Alaska All-Star 14 team. The next year you're playing for Mid-Fairfield and you're in the Atlantic League. The year after that playing for the Royals, which is kind of in Johnny and I's backyard. Johnny being a Long Island kid. I'm a Philly guy. Take us through a little bit of why you were moving around so much. I think I have an idea, but I don't want to assume.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a crazy childhood. Obviously, I think my dad is the reason for all the moving. He played hockey professionally and then got into coaching. He got into coaching kind of right around the age me and my brother started playing travel hockey. So I think that contributed to a big part of it. I think Alaska was his first coaching job, which took us out there. And then from there, we were there for 2 years. And then he got a job out east with the Islanders organization. And he was kind of up and down between Bridgeport and Long Island, which is why we're in Connecticut and then Long Island. And it's been there for quite a while. And obviously now he's in Anaheim. But as my brother and I got older, we stopped moving around as much. But when we were younger, we were kind of all over the place, kind of lived a gypsy lifestyle.
Yeah, but you guys were on Long Island for at least like 4 years, right? Like we spent, I think, at least 3 summers skating together, and something like that.
So I was there for two seasons. I did 2 seasons in Long Island, and my brother actually played for Long Island 1 year while we were still living in Connecticut. So we made the drive every weekend to go play games and stuff. But I was there for 2 years.
Yeah, and I know. Okay, so I wanted to rewind to that also because I know everyone, obviously, not everyone, but they think of you and they think of that big jump you had in 2021, 22. But rewinding back to those years on Long Island, like I remember Tage, one summer you came back and it was like a completely different person. Like I think you shot up like maybe a foot or 6 inches. And were you going to Salisbury and then you got the call from the program? That's what happened, right? It was something crazy like that.
Yeah, we had never heard of like prep school. That was never like a thing out west, right? Like growing up playing Midwest and West, like no one knew what prep hockey was. And we got east in there. Everyone's like, you got to go play, prep school. That's the route everyone goes. So we did a few tours and was going to head to Salisbury. It was all like committed to go there. And then I did that national camp and they needed I think maybe 2 or 3 extra guys to join the U18 team. And they called me on the way back and they were like, hey, we got an extra spot and we'd like you to join us. So kind of pivoted and make a different move there than we were originally planning, but obviously worked out there. But yeah, going back to what you said, I grew 4 inches and gained like 25 pounds over that season.
1 year. Yeah, it's fucking insane.
1 season.
Who were your coach? Would have your coach been at Salisbury? Was it Dan Donato still, or?
No, I'm blanking on his name right now. He's actually my coach, my brother's coach there, because my brother ended up going to Salisbury.
Okay.
What's his name?
All right, we'll let you off the hook on that one. So then who did you end up?
I got a get out of jail free card. I didn't even go there. So
exactly, yeah. That's what I'm. But who?
I was just a tour.
Who did you end up playing for at the national development team?
Renato. Right?
Renato, yep.
So you had Johnny there
for 1 year. So then that's the whole backstory behind when he got to Buffalo. You know, I knew him from playing for him at the program for a year. So it was just kind of, familiar face, and he knew kind of what kind of player I was, I guess, at a younger age than most of the coaches I've had professionally did.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a whole circle thing. Yeah.
Well, I said to Johnny before the show, I'm like, how did he end up at UConn? Like, look how good. And look, one of my college roommates is Joe Pereira. Is he the one?
Oh, yeah.
Did he recruit you to UConn?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
it was actually Joe Pereira and Mike Souza. So Mike Souza, I don't know if you know him.
Yeah,
but he was the assistant at UConn, and he was recruiting me there. Kavanaugh as well, obviously. But when I went there, Souza left, and he was a big reason. My dad played with him, played against him, so it was kind of that familiarity. But I toured most of the hockey. I knew I wanted to play Hockey East, so I pretty much toured every Hockey East school. I actually didn't even know anything about UConn, and my dad's like, "Why don't you just, give it a visit? Sousa's a good guy, and just be open to it." So I actually went there. I just fell in love with the campus, and it kind of just fit perfectly for me and my situation. Obviously, coming off the year I had at the program, I was like 13th forward, 4th line, so not really playing a ton, and it was going to be my draft year, and I accelerated while I was at the program. So I took online courses and graduated a year early. So I went into UConn a year early. So that was going to be my draft year. So that was kind of part of the reason on choosing UConn, is I wanted to go somewhere that was kind of new and that I was going to get a big opportunity to play and be put in all situations. So it kind of just fit kind of perfectly there.
Well, and Cav has a pretty nice track record. I mean, you look at all those guys from BC that have gone to the NHL. I mean, I love Cav. Joe Pereira is one of my college roommates. Like I love Joe. I know he's a nut job, but I love him. We've had him on this show before, and I just assumed Joe probably slid into your DMs and just like annoyed you to death until
I don't know if that was a thing back then.
Committed to UConn, because that's how he does it.
Yeah, he didn't slide into my DMs, no, but he was texting me a lot, and he's a good dude. We had a great time at UConn. Like, that was honestly one of the, the most fun years of playing hockey I've had. Is we had a really good group. I was there for 2 years, but both years, obviously, that's where I met Calter too. And
yeah, it's a fucking fun group of guys. It
was a fun group of guys, like really down to earth, just blue collar, a lot of hardworking guys that had a lot to prove. Because a lot of the guys that we had were coming over from, the transition from the Atlantic League into Hockey East. So
yeah,
a lot of guys with a chip on their shoulder trying to prove something and make a name for themselves and the team and the program, which is kind of, I think, what got everyone there excited about being a part of that, which is a big reason why I went there too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, UConn also now has become a really good program, and the new rink is sick. I've actually done a lot of games there, which has been really cool. So it's cool to see how much it's grown since you've been there. But going into a little bit more NHL stuff too, and while we were talking about your dad before, I'm sure for you it was pretty cool to see Kyle Okposo win a Stanley Cup. He's been your captain for the last couple of years. Obviously, I'm sure it hurt when he got traded, but this might be a reach. Did you have any stories with him when you were in Long Island when your dad was coaching the Islanders? Because I know he was around the community a lot, so there's got to be some sort of collusion there, I feel like, right?
Yeah, stories that I'm sure he probably doesn't remember, but that stuck out for me and my brother, obviously, just being younger and being around the NHL and guys. And, that's every kid's dream growing up, is to play in the NHL. And we kind of had front row seats and backstage passes to everything, right? So for me and my brother, we were stick boys and water boys, just kind of helping out whenever the equipment managers needed help. So we'd fill up water bottles and do stuff around the locker room, put towels in the stalls, just little things like that, and just kind of always be around the guys. Pretty young, so not really talking with a lot of them too often, but just being around them, you just kind of get to see how they go about their business and see what it takes to be a pro. And Kyle's one of those guys that, he was a stud even when he was on Long Island. He was, scoring every game, and the teams back then were actually pretty sick. They were back in the Coliseum, and just fun atmospheres, and it was just cool to kind of be a part of that. And then fast forward, now you're playing with them, and played with them a lot this season, kind of on a line with them too. So it's just cool. Hockey's a small world. You run into a lot of the same guys, and it was awesome seeing him win a cup. He's been, our captain since I've been there, and just an unreal guy, down to earth, give you the shirt off his back, just wants everyone else to succeed before him. And, he finally got what he deserved there.
He invited you to his cup party?
I was invited. Yeah, I haven't gone, but would have liked to go, but kind of, trying to get dialed so I can try to win our own cup here.
Yeah, he's. I mean, I've had a couple of experiences with him. Just he's a USA guy, he's a college guy, and the limited times I've ever been around him, what an awesome guy. Again, I'm sitting there in the same breath. Obviously I didn't play with him like you did, but rooting for him to win that cup, because he's just one of these guys that they're coming down the back nine, and you want to see guys like that win, especially if you're not there. That's what you start rooting for, to see your friends do well. But you lose a veteran like that, and then the team goes out and hires a veteran coach. Lindy Ruff is he's got to be pretty far up the list of active games coached and wins and all sorts of stats, I guess, amongst coaches. So I'm curious for you, Tage, like, you're obviously a huge part of this Buffalo team. If you guys are going to rebuild, really complete this rebuild and become, a part of the conversation, you're going to be part of the centerpiece of it, right? What kind of conversations have you had with Lindy about, taking the next step, and how this team is being built? And kind of, I think we all know, for the most part, like, you're a guy who's got to score a lot of goals for this team, amongst other things. But, I'm always curious how a veteran coach handles his star players when they're coming into a new locker room.
Yeah, I had a couple talks. So I talked to him on the phone when he first got hired, just kind of briefly, just introduction, and just talking about how he's excited to get here and get things going. And then I had a sit down with him before I headed home for the summer that I thought was really good. And he just seems like a very intense, but also a guy that wants to have fun. I think that was kind of his main message, is like, hey, like, it's going to be different than what you're used to here. It's going to be intense, but winning is fun, and we're going to have fun, and it's all about the process. And I think that's kind of what he was just hammering home, is the process and the intensity that we need to have every day in practice and off the ice and stuff like that. And I think for me, just kind of picking his brain on what he wanted to see from me, because he's obviously been in Jersey and played against us.
Your brother had him too, right?
My brother had him and raved about. My brother had a cup of coffee.
He's the man, honestly.
Tice or Lindy?
Both.
Yeah, they both. Tice, he's had nothing but good things to say about Lindy. And I think, honestly, Tice fits Lindy's mold, is just those guys that compete and work. And I think that's something that our team just needs, is a little guidance, right? Like, we've got a young group. We still have a young group. We've added some pieces that I think will help us. But just a little guidance on, what it takes to take that step and get kind of over the hump, which I think we've kind of been stuck for the past few years. But he's been there before. He has a track record, like you said, and he's kind of a staple in Buffalo too. So there's that familiarity, that comfortability with the city, and I think it means a lot to him to be back in Buffalo and kind of get things going, the way he left them. And I think everyone in the city and our team is excited for that too.
Yeah, I'm actually friends with his son, Brian. I text him a lot. He's a good dude, but I know from Brian, at least, his dad's fucking fired up to be back in Buffalo. And I loved it. I don't know if you gave him a little chirp or not, but that little photo shoot he did with the old school starter jacket when he got the job, did you guys give him some crap for that? No?
No, not yet. Don't know him well enough yet. We'll warm up and then I'll start chirping. But no, he seems like a great dude. And I think everyone's just excited, right? Like, it's nostalgia there. That's what Buffalo is all about. And he's been a big piece of Buffalo hockey for a long time, playing there and then coaching. And have him back. I think it just gives the city a little something extra to be excited about.
I kind of do that as well. Like last summer, it felt like, I mean, at least from the outside noise perspective, that, the Sabres were that sexy team, right? Like this is the year the Sabres are going to make the playoffs. Everyone in hockey media was saying it last summer. Did that, I don't know if it put pressure on you guys, but did you feel that energy, and has it kind of gone away a little bit?
I don't think it's gone away, but I think a couple seasons ago we had that swagger and that kind of aura about us, right? And I think a lot of it is we were catching teams off guard. They weren't really expecting us to give them a game when they came in to play us. And I think after that season, I think we woke a lot of teams up. And this season, I think we got every team's best. There weren't any nights off for other teams as far as, they're coming into our building or we're going to play them and they think they're going to have an easy one against us. So we got every team's best. And I think a couple times we didn't really know how to handle it. When things weren't going our way. And, you brought up the point of being a sexy team. And I think that's something that got us into a little bit of trouble too much. I think, we'd kind of take it an extra step or an extra mile on trying to do a little bit of too many cute plays or trying to do a little too much instead of just letting the game come to us and just being mucky and grindy and just kind of getting your feet wet in the game. Whereas we'd go out right away and try to make plays and turn it over and it'd be in the back of their net. And then you're chasing the game. Right. And then it's an uphill battle from there. Every team in the league now, they get a lead. It's tough to claw your way back. And I feel like that's kind of what happened to us a lot this season is we were chasing a lot of games because we just came out starting like we're just going to go play and outskill them where, that may have worked a couple seasons ago where, teams weren't really expecting us to do it, but now they come in and they know what they're getting from us. It was a little different.
Yeah. Well,
I actually, Colby, can I just follow up quickly?
Go ahead.
Or you go. You look
dialed. I'm looking at the way that the team is built and, I'm a big proponent in thinking you've got to build from the back end. I think you need defensemen who can play the game. And I mean, look, your decor and daily Faceoff, the way they have it right now is Byram, Dahlin, Power, Jokiharju, Clifton, and Samuelson. I mean, that's a hell of a back end right there. I mean, there's a lot of high-end players that can move the puck, that can move their feet, that can contribute offensively. There's a little bite, there's size. And I look at that decor and I'm like, these guys getting another year older and another year mature. I'm like, you could build around that. I mean, obviously there's some talent on the front. I know in net, there's UPL had a nice run last season, and I think he proved what he can do. And then Johnny Lazarus is picked for the Rookie of the Year. Devin Levi, hopefully he'll have an opportunity to kind of show what he can do in the National League this year. But as a forward, and I was a defenseman, right? So I'm biased towards this. But if I'm a forward and I'm looking at that decor, I'm like, I'm excited to play with this group. I'm going to get the puck in good areas all over the ice. Is that a sentiment in your locker room right now? Is there a lot of belief in that group back there?
Yeah, 100%. I don't even think just the back end. I think throughout the whole roster, I mean, we have a really tight group. And, we've been drafting in the first round pretty high for the last while, right? So we've made a lot of good pieces. You look at that back end, they're all studs. And
studs.
Yeah. And I know I hate saying this all the time too, but they're young. Like our whole team is really young, and a lot of it is getting better each year. You learn new things every year. You add to your game. You learn what works for you, what works, for your team. And these guys are still learning. Like our back end is young, but they're young guys that have played for a while now. So the young excuse doesn't work anymore. And it's time to win now. And I think we have the back end to do it. That's a solid back end. And like you brought up the goalies too, he's coming off a hot year. And we've proven in the past too that we can score up front. So I think we have a sneaky, really good group that hopefully, we catch a lot of teams by surprise again this year, where we had maybe a little bit of an off year last year that teams thought we were going to be better than we were, and we kind of took a dip. So I think we're going to catch a lot of teams by surprise.
Well, I think we know what the answer is. I mean, my buddy Jazz informed me he's at TNT that you guys are 18-7-2 in the goat head jerseys. I mean, what is it about wearing those that just makes you guys better at hockey?
Should go to those permanently. Those are my favorite.
100%, right?
All the guys
100%.
love wearing them. When you walk into the room and you're wearing the goat heads, it's just, I don't know, like.
But do you like them
It just feels different. It's nice. It's like.
Do you like them in the black and the red, or do you like them in the
sick
blue
and whites too?
In the blue, I
like the black and the red. When we had the blue and white goat heads, I wasn't a huge fan of them.
White
but
with the white pants was a little much.
Yeah, it was a lot. The white gloves, that's pretty flashy. I mean,
yeah,
I like the black. It's just sharp looking. Looks mean. I think it's just the fans love it too, right? So like when they wearing those jerseys, they're fired up and just gives that extra energy in the building too, which is always nice.
If you guys had them on the road too, like white with the red and black, I think that'd be sick too.
Yeah, I would love that. Those are really nice unis. I think they're probably one of the best in the league as far as like the ultimates for sure.
Easily top 5. But what I wanted to chime in. Yeah.
A lot of iconic moments from like Danny Briere and others in those jerseys back. Dominic Hasek, obviously, he comes to mind when you. At least for me, when I see that, jersey, he's certainly the guy, Hasek that really sticks out in my mind. So I remember being between the benches one of the nights in Chicago, and you guys were wearing all the white pants and the white gloves and whatever. And I'm leaning over talking to the equipment guy during warmups, and I'm asking him like his thoughts on it. And he feels like you feel, I think, Tage. I don't think the white, I think it's too much of a nightmare for the equipment guys to be constantly dealing with that.
Yeah, the pants, they would start to get stained, and they'd stain like yellow from like all the sweat and stuff. It didn't look good. So it's definitely probably a hassle for them.
All the Gatorade stains.
Not gonna lie too, like with the white pants, white jerseys, white socks, white gloves. Not gonna lie, it was sometimes a little tougher to find guys out there. Like you kind of just see guys out of your peripheral with like darker jerseys. You just see them. The white was like, you had to really like make sure they were there.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a good point. What I want to chime in about before, like when you were talking about last year and whatnot, I remember watching this game thinking like, what the fuck is going on right now? And I need to hear like from your perspective, and I'm sure you can kind of guess which game I'm talking about right now. It was when you guys were home against Edmonton and Power scores with like 5 seconds left in OT to win it. You go to the locker room, and then like 5 minutes later, you guys are sent back out for a shootout. Like I know as a fan, and I think Colby would know and guess, but yeah, I had you guys money line in this game, so I'm fired up that I hit my bet. And then all of a sudden, you guys are going to a shootout, and I'm sweating it again. But what are you guys saying when you're going back on the ice? Because I got to imagine that was just like, what the fuck is going on here right now?
We had like half our team was almost already undressed.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like a quick one like where we went in and like they called us right back out. Like no one said anything to us. Like right after we scored, like there wasn't any like hesitation. Like everyone just got off, went down the tunnel. Guys started getting undressed. We were like waiting for them to do like the 3 stars and like have guys come in so we could do our like speech and get out of there. And like, I mean, I was in my halves, like almost like skates untied, still on. And they came in there like, hey, just a heads up, like they're reviewing it right now. Like we might be going back out there. And sure enough, they brought us back out. So guys were like, some guys knew they weren't going in the shootout, so they were just like, whatever. We had other guys that like cinching their stuff back up, getting out there quick. But it was wild, actually.
Well, yeah. Did anyone have their skates untied on the bench?
Well, guys are getting undressed right away after a game. I mean, you in an 82 game schedule, you don't have a lot of guys that are hanging around in sweaty gear after a game. You just don't see that.
Especially after like a battle going into overtime, you're just like, all right, nice win, let's get out of here.
Yeah. Oh, and Power too, like scores. I think it was like his first career overtime goal taken away. Like,
yeah, tough for him.
That sucks. But like, I haven't seen anything like that. I know there was a situation like in college years ago, like Minnesota State Mankato, I think it's like replay in overtime or something. But that happening in the NHL, I don't know. It's pretty absurd. But
I think
one of the
came
weirder
back
things.
out and won it though. Hey, like that would have been an absolute dagger.
Well, UPL also did like the goal celebration.
Karma going for you
that was unreal.
Yeah, UPL had a pretty sick celly there. But another thing, and this is kind of off topic hockey that I really wanted to bring up like in the beginning of this, but we kind of just like rambled on a little bit. Colby, you'll find this funny. there's one thing that Tage and I have in common that is, I think, a good take. I think the general public would think it's a bad take. Both big movie guys. I think The Hangover 3 is the best of the 3 movies. And I've seen and heard Tage say that out loud on the Empty Nighters podcast too.
Yeah. And we have a good reasoning, right? Like,
have a great reasoning. Both Alan Gardner guys. Love Alan. Favorite character.
Yeah.
He is the main character of the third movie.
He's the A1. You got to give him the most time. He's got to get the most ice time. And he did in the third.
But I'm doing a hot seat question here because I know you're a big movie guy and I have one in my head, so I can kind of give you my thought. If you're stuck here trying to come up with one, if you can make a sequel right now to any like comedy from our childhood, what would the sequel be?
It has to be from like our childhood,
like I'm thinking like Step Brothers, Superbad, like those kinds of movies that don't have a sequel. Like for me, it'd be a high school reunion. Seth, Fogel, Evan, they're back in their hometown, like trying to get laid again.
That'd be really good.
Yeah.
That'd be really good. To be honest with you, I wanted a Step Brothers or a Hangover 4. You know how the ending?
Really?
You know how 3 ends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chow kills everybody.
I wanted a 4th one, yes. But if I'm doing like just like one that's a one-off, Step Brothers is a good one.
What, they're like married now and have their own kids? That'd be good.
That would be good. You put me on the spot here.
I'll
take a lot of pride in, so I want to make sure it's a good one.
I know, yeah. Give us something good here.
I'll help you out a little bit here. I'm gonna go further back. How about like a Big Daddy 2 or Liar Liar 2? I mean, those are classic movies that are ones that I remember from my childhood. I know I'm a little bit older than
you're aging yourself a bit.
And then how about Happy Gilmore too? I mean, Happy Gilmore, which that is coming out.
They're doing a remake.
They are doing a number 2 Happy Gilmore. So
I'm gonna watch it.
You just with all the politically correctness now, these movies they're just not as good or as funny because everybody's offended by everything these days. It's just embarrassing, you know.
True, but you know what? If one of these movies that had was a blockbuster hit comedy back in the day, if they made a rerun, even if it was garbage, everyone still go watch it. If they they're gonna make this Happy Gilmore. If it's trash, I'm still gonna go watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so they're gonna make money.
I watched Anchorman too, and that movie's
I'm a big fan of the other guys. I could see them doing a second one on that. I would like one of those. You know, that's like a sneaky, really good one.
Probably. Go.
So I didn't ask Charlie McAvoy about this last week. We had him on our show last week, and I was actually kind of annoyed that I forgot to bring this up. So I'm gonna ask you. What's the buzz around the Four Nations and the Olympics coming up? I mean, I know Four Nations is first. Olympics is a little bit ways away. I saw the other day Quinny and Torts got added to Sully's staff. I do feel like we're going to start getting excitement and buzz towards that Four Nations tournament. Obviously, you're a guy that's worn the USA jersey. I think, 1 or 2 gold World Juniors? 1, right? Or is it 2? One gold World Junior. You know, you come from the U.S. program. So, you're one of these USA hockey guys through and through. But, you're going to get an opportunity to wear it now on the biggest stages, right? The nations and then the Olympics. How's that? You're not used to a guy who makes a ton of money and scores 30, 40 goals a year getting nervous about things because it's like you guys are so good at what you do. But then you get to that international stage. It's the only time I've ever seen some of my closest friends that have been all-stars and players in the league for 15 years get nervous. So what's the excitement or the nerves or, what's your feeling surrounding this whole international competition that, again, I know nothing is fully official, but I think we all know you'll be one of the guys wearing that USA sweater.
I mean, hopefully, yeah. It's a huge honor. Every guy's, you ask them, they want to represent their country and go play for their country. And when you just put those colors on, it's just it's a different kind of feeling than, the regular season games. I mean, obviously those are your priority is trying to win a cup, right? But you get to try to achieve that every season. The Four Nations thing doesn't come around much. Same with the Olympics every 4 years. So I think that's where those nerves kick in I've never even played in those, but I can imagine working your way for however long you've been growing up trying to, crack a lineup for a Four Nation or an Olympic team and you finally get the opportunity and kind of be in that situation to win a gold is pretty surreal. And I think it's something that a lot of people take pride in. And I think that's where that nerves come from. It's kind of a tricky line to walk though, because obviously you want to be excited about that and you want to try to make that team. But at the same time, like your focus is how do I help my team win and, make the playoffs and chase a cup. So it's like one of those things that's kind of a tough one to walk.
Yeah, the mid-season too is
Yeah.
tough also. I'm sure you would probably want to break, right? But it's going to be pretty intense hockey. Like,
yeah, but you're never going to turn down if they say, hey, you're going to play on the Four Nations, you're never turning that down.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of guys. And that'd be an honor if I'm lucky enough to play on that team. That'd be sweet.
I still think that gold medal game where you guys won the World Juniors probably top 3 hockey game I've ever watched in my life. That game in Montreal, right, against Canada, like that was a shootout game.
To this day, I think that's still the loudest building I've ever played in. Yeah, shootout,
that game,
Canada. Yeah, that game.
Was that Troy? Was that when Troy Terry? Was that the Troy Terry game? Shootout game.
Scored 5-hole 100 times on the shootout.
Yeah, 5-hole Terry, right? That was like
and
the T-shirts.
He did it the game before too, because we went into overtime and then shootout with Russia, and he did it again then too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a crazy gold medal game. Foxy had like a 3-assist game, I think, in that gold medal game too. Like all the Long Island boys represented in that game. That was a good crew. Bracco.
Have they been in touch, Tage? Like, what's been the process like for that? Because I assume they start with like oh, hi, buddy. My golden retriever wants to come say hi. But has there been like, they start with maybe 40 guys and they put you all on a list and they communicate with you and then it like narrows out, or what's the process been like for that? Or has there been no process so far?
I mean, for me, there's been no process so far. So if they are making a list or whatever, I've never been a part of anything like that. So, I mean, I've done obviously the U18, the U20 and, when I was younger, but that's a little different. I've never really been in a part of anything like this, so I don't really know what the process is. But no, I haven't been contacted, nothing like that. I don't know how they go about it.
Got it. Well, look, if we're putting money on it, I think Jonny and I both have our money on that. You'll be wearing that USA sweater, and I think we'd be willing to bet the house on that. So
I hope so. That'd be awesome. I'd really like that. So one thing I'm shooting for this year for sure.
I only got a couple more for you, Tage. We really appreciate your time, seriously. And again, I apologize for texting you for the last 2 months to come on the show. But
I always love texting with you.
This question is actually from a friend of mine named Dwayne, who's like the biggest Sabres fan I know, has his own show, Sabres show called Two Goalies, One Mic. But this is from, I think, 2 years ago, the game where you had 5 against Columbus. Like, how bad did you want that 6th one? Like, be honest here. Were you thinking about it after you had 5? You're like, I gotta get that double hat trick. Like, no one's done that since like the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it a lot actually. after I scored 4 in the first.
This is the second period, wasn't it?
Like, what's that?
You had 5 in the second period. No.
I had 4 in the first and then scored like halfway through the second, and I was like, wow, I actually have a legit chance. So, and then I think. I don't know. I didn't really play much after that, so I think they were worried about guys running around. But I would have liked to chase it. I was feeling pretty good, so it was one of those games that just kind of, I don't know, it seemed like everything was going right. So,
How many times you watched the highlights from that game?
I mean, they pop up quite a bit. So, especially now with my little guy likes to watch the Sabres hockey highlights, Dad's hockey highlights. So they're on a bit here, but
it's his idea.
Yeah, it's mine.
Let me
watch this kid.
Let me ask you something, Tage. That's really nothing to do with you, but I'm curious to get your opinion on it because it's something we've covered on this show quite a bit, and it's really been the buzz this year throughout the league. And Rutger McGroarty, who just got traded to Pittsburgh, forced his way out of Winnipeg. Cutter Gauthier did it earlier this year with Philly and Anaheim. I'm just curious, like, you're a vet, but you're not a 15-year guy yet. But you've been in the league, you've made your mark. What's your sense of and feeling when you see these types of things happening? Is this something that, bothers you and you can't wait to get those guys in a game so you can talk a little shit? Or, because I'll just be honest with you. My feeling has been, look, you don't have leverage very often in your career. Very few players are even good enough to ever have leverage, but you have this opportunity to have leverage as a young player. I don't personally have any issue with players using their leverage. Now, with the Gauthier situation, I was a lot harder on it because I felt like the way he went about it was not the right way. Where, with McGroarty, there was no, I'm not going to speak to you. I'm going to ice John LeClaire and Patrick Sharp outside the locker room, like all that stuff. Like, so I'm just curious as a player that, has become a star player in the NHL, where do you fall on these young guys who haven't played in the league, flexing the leverage that they have?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know a whole lot of the details about, obviously you hear the stuff going on with it, but you don't know all the details that are going into it. But, I will say my dad played forever back in the day, and hard-nosed, just very intense guy, and pretty old school. So I was raised a certain way, and I just feel like it's a little – you're putting yourself in a tough spot. I feel like sometimes maybe burning bridges like that, but at the same time, they're good players, and they want to go where they think they're going to fit in. And I can say it's something that I probably wouldn't have done, but every player is different, and I feel like that's something that's happening a lot more often now. So, hopefully it works out for those guys.
So does Cutter Gauthier get like a slash on the back of the leg?
You think he was going to fight? He doesn't give a fuck.
Comes into Buffalo and, just give him a little like, hey, like, don't be pulling that shit or whatever. It's all good.
I mean, I don't really care. Like, do what you want. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. He's not playing for them yet. So,
yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I'm just curious. I just like to get people's perspective on things. Everybody has a different opinion. Everybody has a different perspective. You graciously share why you feel you have a little more of an old school approach. I personally think that's a good thing. I'm sure your dad probably cringes when he sees that type of stuff happening. Guys who played back then were, the ultimate warriors. So, I know that I'm asking you to talk about other people. So, and I know that's not always the most comfortable thing, but I do appreciate your insight on it.
Yeah, no problem.
I got one more for you, Colby. Do you have any more too before we kind of wrap it up? All right, my last one. It's a stupid question, but I have to ask one. I always ask stupid questions here at some point. You're 6'6". Where's the weirdest place you've been recognized before?
Where's the weirdest place I've been recognized?
Yeah. Or do people even like think you're not you at some time? Like, I feel like you probably get the NBA comments every now and then. Like, you're tall.
I get basketball all the time. I get basketball or volleyball, believe it or not.
Volleyball, really?
I get that one all the time.
Yeah. I always forget how tall you are until I'm actually with you. And then I'm like, dude, you're fucking tall.
Yeah. I know. I get basketball and volleyball the most. I feel like the only place I really get recognized is Buffalo, which is kind of nice. So
yeah, that's interesting. All right. Quinn Hughes gave me one last year. He was like, I was like in France, and some guy came up to me and like said, "Are you Quinn Hughes?" I was like, "That's interesting. I don't know, like maybe somewhere overseas like that." Yeah. So let me ask you one more thing though. Why Arizona in the summers? Because I know you've obviously bounced around, but it's 120 degrees there, like you said. That's why anyone watching this right now, the mist has been running past Tage's face this whole time. But why do you train out there in the summers?
There's a little bit of a backstory, but my mom's family is from here in Arizona. So like growing up, every time my dad was done the season, whether it was playing or coaching, we'd come back here. And that's kind of just where I guess we set up home base, since we don't really have a true home base. We'd always come back here, and my dad fell in love with it back when he was playing. And I think me and my brother love it here too. I mean, it's really hot in the summer, but I don't mind it. The golf is great. You know what you're getting every day. Like, it's sunny and, every single day. And got family out here too. So it's been a good place to train too. I mean, ever since COVID happened, I think the only two like states that were like open for you to do anything were Florida and Arizona. So I think a lot of guys came down here to work out and train. And since then, I feel like a lot of guys have kind of just stuck down here and made it kind of their training hub for the summers. And we have a pretty good group out here. So good skates, good lifts, and a lot of golf. So can't complain.
I'm sure Vic, our producer right now, is itching to know if you skate with Austin Matthews because he's the biggest Leafs fan and biggest Austin Matthews fan. So I'll ask that question on Vic's behalf.
Yeah, we skate together. Matthews, Keller, Fisher's down here, my brother, Costello. There's actually quite a few guys that you'd be surprised that are down here. So we have a solid group for, say, 2 to 3 months of pretty solid skates. Obviously, guys are kind of in and out because not everyone wants to stay here the whole summer, but we have a good crew.
Vic might be emailing you for Matthew's autograph at some point before you head back to Buffalo for the season.
I'll take a cut if I get one.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tage, we really appreciate this. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon when you're at the Garden playing against the Rangers. So look forward to that.
Sounds
good luck this year.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, bro. What a nice guy. He's the best, but it was good to have him on. Good to hear from Buffalo Sabres. For the fans too, right? Like that fan base is itching to get back in the playoffs. So really appreciate Tage coming on here and talking and sharing a little bit about himself. You never really interacted with him before, right?
No, you know what? I met his brother at a Frozen 4 one year. But I've never interacted with him. Obviously seen him play and huge fan of his game. I mean, I really always, you see these American guys and you see how, they start becoming star players and you get pretty excited. He's one of the most prolific shooters in the NHL.
Yeah.
Just an absolute weapon of a shot. So it'll be great to see him playing for Team USA here over the next couple of years. I mean, he's one of those guys that he's penned in, right? I mean, he's not a fringe player for Team USA. I mean, he's 6'6" and just has so many different elements to his game. So yeah, it was good talking to him. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with Buffalo. Like I'll be honest with you, I'm not sold on what they've done. I think they've got, a good back end. And they certainly do have some good players, him being one of them, but I still think there's too many question marks in that lineup. And I just wonder, like, how many years is the general manager going to get? And then all of a sudden, if there's a new general manager, then you start wondering about the coach, right? So it's always interesting when teams have sort of, underperformed, or I don't even know if underperformed is the right word. I just don't think they've been built to win. I really don't. So we'll see what happens this year. I mean, I think, I'll be really interested to see what happens with Devin Levi this year. You pronounced him as your guy that you thought would win the Calder last year. Maybe he'll win it this year. Or maybe he'll be in it this year. I don't.
Is he eligible this year?
Yeah, I don't think he's played enough games in the National Hockey League to not be. Okay. I don't know the exact cutoff, but I can't imagine he has. So, we'll see what happened. And it was interesting. I asked him about Rutger and Cutter Gauthier, and I know he didn't say a whole lot.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were going with that.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm curious what other players think about it. I mean, people are highly opinionated about that. And he didn't say a lot, but he almost did say a lot with the tone of his voice and kind of his facial expressions. Like, I can tell that, it's one of those things where I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to sound off on it, but I don't think he truly likes it. I mean, he brought up the old school way that his dad raised him from when he played. So you would think that kind of goes against old school principles. You just play where they tell you to play. So
but still, I think it's changed so much. Like, I know we had that argument, like when this was actually going down, but even while we're talking about UConn, like Matthew Wood, like transferred to Minnesota. Like it's just a different time right now where college players can just come and go basically as they please.
But what does that have to do with a player?
The transfer portal has allowed them to use their leverage in college, which then makes them feel comfortable to do it in the NHL.
Yeah, but I don't think there's no such thing like in college with the transfer portal. That's more just free agency. I mean, that's not really
kind of the same thing. Like you commit to a program and then you just go to a better team because they can give you more money or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
that's free agency. That's free agency. I think that the transfer portal is more looking at you're basically on 1-year contracts in college now.
Yeah,
and you're basically going to be 2 or 3 years of one year deals. I mean, I don't think that there's no leverage. There's no I need you to trade me. I'm holding out. I'm not playing here. like we saw, like Rutger's like, yeah, I'm not playing here. Cutter's like, yeah, I'm not playing here. In college, you can just up and go during the transfer window. So.
That's leverage.
Yeah, but again, you don't have to ask for a trade. You don't have to ask for a new like there's no, I mean, it's just different. I'm not saying that there's no similarities, but it's different. But I see your point in that it's creating an atmosphere for players where you call your own shots all the time. There's basically no commitment level to anything. So, that Rutger McGroarty trade goes down, 14th pick for 14th pick. That kid, Braden Yeager.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about Yeager. I've talked to some people that feel like Pittsburgh won that trade. That's just kind of what some people have told me that are pro scouts, amateur scouts that know the players. I think Rutger McGroarty will be on opening night roster in Pittsburgh. That's just my gut and my guess. But that was a trade that happened over the last couple of days. And then the goalie from the Nashville guy, Askarov, he gets traded to San Jose. Mike Grier, look, Grier's doing a nice job of putting a core together. He really is.
I mean, listen, it's not going to move the needle right now. And also, I was looking while you were talking. Rutger right now is slotted in as a second line right winger with Malkin and Bunting, according to dailyfaceoff.com, which is pretty cool. But yeah, San Jose, I think they have a lot to be excited about in 3 or 4 years. I think right now, no one's going to look to them to be a threat to push for a playoff spot, right? Like, yeah, they'll be more fun to watch than the last 2 seasons. And obviously I always watch them because of Mario. And I think it'll be fun to watch them with Celebrini and Will Smith. And, if Askarov can go in there and win that job, like he's not guaranteed to be the starter right away. Is he?
No,
like, is that for sure his job? I don't think so.
No. I mean, and they said as much. Greer came out and said that, but I liked the trade. I thought it was a decent trade for both teams because
the future. I mean, they're building for 3 or 4 years from now.
And Nashville gets Edstrom. They get a first-round pick, although there's conditions. They took Krona, the former Denver goalie who's been okay in pro hockey. So we'll see. We'll see in a couple of years how that trade really pans out, but looks like a pretty fair deal to both sides. So I think the last thing
let's remind people that we're recording this on Monday. So if there is any news on Tuesday, that's why we're not touching on it.
Yeah, Monday, August 26th. It's about 5:20 in the evening or late in the afternoon, whichever way you want to look at it. The episode will come out Wednesday morning, the 28th. So things certainly could move and happen. Let's get into the RFA stuff because a lot of rumors swirling around Jeremy Swayman. In the last day or so. I saw the Empty Netters guys had a pretty funny tweet. They were like, I'm sure people will react really, really
reasonable.
Here's what I can tell you. The report that Jeremy Swayman is looking for $10 million is false. So really? I'm going to tell you that with certainty. Okay. That's a false. That's just a rumor.
Didn't you say that number though a while ago?
I'm just telling you right now. It's false. They didn't, that's not what they asked for. So those are not true rumors, about the numbers. They're certainly looking for a sizable raise. And I don't know what the ask is exactly. But I can just tell you this, that it's not true that they're asking for $10 million. The other thing that I can tell you is that it's just taking some time. This is an important contract for the player. It's an important contract for the team. There's some room to make up the two sides. They do have some room to make up with each other, but I think there's optimism that a deal will eventually get done. I do, but I will say this. I wouldn't be shocked if it's not done at the start of training camp. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying it won't be, but you look at the history of the club, you look at the history of the player, you look at the player's agent and their representation. What kind of deals have they done? Have they had any of these situations? I know Jim Montgomery said there's no doubt that he'll be at camp. Listen, I love the optimism for Monty, but the reality is if the player doesn't get the deal he's looking for, then he probably won't to start the season. I think both sides would like to have this deal done for training camp. I don't think anybody will be happy if he's not at training camp, but look, this is the big deal for Jeremy Swayman. Like, this is his big contract. And so, he deserves a cornerstone deal in the National Hockey League. But I'm just telling you right now, Johnny, this number is not going to be a double-digit $1 million number. It's just a false report. It's not what they asked for. The number might be 9. I don't know the answer to that, but I know for sure, I can tell you with certainty, it's not 10.
If you were a Bruins fan right now, though, would you be concerned that they traded Ullmark before having this deal done? There's no way Swayman walks, right? There's no way.
Not necessarily. I know, because he's a restricted free agent. He's not a UFA. He's under team control. He's not going to go sit out and not play. I mean, in order to get to UFA, you need to continue to accrue years of service, right? So what is he going to go sit out for 2 years while he waits to be a UFA? No one. So,
because I saw some of those opinions being floated around, like, why would they trade Ullmark with this going on? Like, he's 25 years old, and I'm sitting there like, well, they're not going to trade him. He's not going to ask for a trade. Right?
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, listen, he certainly hasn't, and it's certainly not in that situation, but we don't have a crystal ball, Johnny. I mean, if things got really ugly, certainly something like that could happen. I'm not saying it will. I doubt that would happen. Like, I would be shocked if that's where this ended up. I would be totally shocked. But I mean, we can't sit here and say it wouldn't or it won't. We don't have crystal balls. We have no idea. What if things got really ugly? What if all of a sudden he the sides tell each other to F off, But here's what I can tell you. I still believe that this negotiation is in a respectful place. I don't think they're having screaming matches every day with Swayman's camp and with the Bruins camp. I don't think that's where it is. I think you have a player and his agent who are willing to be patient. And I think you have Don Sweeney, who's been doing this for a long time. Okay. He's dealt with, plenty of contracts, whether it was Marchand's contract, whether it was Charlie McAvoy's contract. I mean, you name it. He's dealt with superstar player contracts. Okay. And I think Don Sweeney's a very patient guy. He's never a guy who shows his cards. There's never leaks coming out of the Bruins organization. That's the other thing I'll tell you. Both sides here are not very leakable sides, right? The Bruins are not leakable, and Jeremy Swayman and his people are not very leakable. So beware what rumors that you believe in regards to this situation, because a lot of them are probably going to be bullshit leading up to camp. And the closer we get to camp, the dial's going to get turned up on this. And that's where the rumor mill will really, really get ugly. And, there's also, similar conversation to be had about the goaltender in New York and what he's going to get. And I think people are looking, who's going to blink first? Who's going to get their deal first, right?
I mean, I've already seen Ranger fans I tried to ignore it today. I actually, you should be proud of me that I didn't engage in anything. But yeah, Ranger fans are saying Igor's going to want 12 and now we're fucked. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it could set a standard for what the goalies will want going forward if Swayman does get,
But I'm just telling you right now, Swayman didn't ask for $10 million. I think the number's high, but he didn't ask for $10 million. It's a bad report. It's clickbait. It's bad information. And that's
I don't even know who started it, honestly. I just saw the rumors kind of going from Bruins fans' Twitter.
Well, I know you make the media rounds throughout the week. So, feel free to pass that information along into the
what do you mean I make the media rounds throughout the week?
Well, you get invited on a lot of shows and you do a lot of podcasts and you do a lot of different things. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not taking a shot at you. You do. Is that a false statement?
No. Honestly, I had no idea what you meant by it. So I was just questioning it. I was just giving you a face because I wasn't sure. Is that okay?
That's okay. What about Raymond and Mo Sider? I mean, I think that Detroit right now is a little paralyzed with some of the depth signings that they want to make because they don't know what's going to happen with Raymond and Sider. I mean, those are two pretty important players there. You got to think, Stevie Y is looking to get those done. This is normally when we start to see deals happen, like leading up to Labor Day, and then if not, maybe the week after Labor Day, Monday, you start to see, because guys are generally reporting to their cities right now. And I remember, Johnny, one year I'm up in Boston. We got our informal practices with captains, and Brad Marchand was there skating with us. And then the day before camp, he still hadn't signed, and that was it. We didn't see him the day before camp. We didn't see him the first couple of days of camp. Well, he got a deal, and he only missed a couple of days of camp. I think it was his bridge deal in 2012 or 13. I don't remember, but
I think Brady Tkachuk did this recently too, didn't he? Didn't Brady Tkachuk not get his deal done originally and then join the team a little late, not too long ago?
So it happens, right? It totally happens. But if I'm the Bruins, I'd be willing to give Swayman. I'd be willing to give him, I don't know, I think somewhere between 8.5 and maybe 9.25. I think that would be a pretty good number for Swayman. If you can get him done at 8.75 times 8, I think that would be a really, really good number for a cornerstone guy who is one of 7 or 8 true number one, can win a playoff series type of goaltenders. I don't know. What's the number for you, Johnny?
For Swayman? I mean, listen, I think goalies, I know we kind of disagree on this. When you have a guy who's that good, Swayman will make Boston as competitive as possible, over the next 5-6 years. And I think that's why I think so strongly about Igor Shesterkin. If you want to trade Igor Shesterkin for maybe 2 players that can replace that, I still think it's not worth getting rid of a world.
You cannot trade Igor Shesterkin.
It's not worth getting rid of a world-class goalie. I think you got to make him happy if you can. These goalies don't come around often, right? How often do we talk during the playoffs where you need a guy that can make that extra save? These are the guys that do that.
Well, he could win you a series by stealing 2 games in a series.
Exactly. I'm all for paying the goalies. If I'm a Bruins fan and Swayman wanted 10, I'd be happy giving him 10, especially now that you got rid of Ullmark.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing you have to remember, and I'm looking at this right now on Igor. Right now, $5.6 million is 6.4% of the cap. Let's say you do give a guy $10 million and it's 8.5% of the cap. In 5 years, when the deal might not be good anymore because guys get older, that cap is hopefully cut almost a quarter. Instead of being 10% of the cap, it'll only be 7% of the cap or whatever. So, you can't get too caught up on what it's going to be down the road. You got to think, how many really good years do I have on this player? I think Swayman, if Swayman gets 8.75 a year, right? Or even 8.5, 8.5 a year times 8, then I think that sets up Igor to get 9.5, maybe 9.7. Maybe 9.75. The only shitty thing for both of those guys is they live in states where you just get hammered on taxes. Bill Belichick was talking about it on the McAfee show about Taxachusetts. Once you make $1 million, they come harder at you on a millionaire's tax in Massachusetts, right? And New York. We know it's one of the worst states for tax purposes. So agents, they're hip to that. They know, in Florida, if you're Igor Shesterkin, you're all right, I'll take $9 million because I'm going to make more than if I got $11 million in New York. That's just a reality, right? So hopefully over the next couple of weeks, Johnny, these deals will get done, but I have a feeling that they won't. I really don't. And if you're Igor, why would you sign until you see what Swayman gets? Why not? Because you're going to command more. Maybe not a ton more, but you're going to command more. So why not wait to see what Swayman gets? Although, worst came to worst, what happens if Swayman took a hometown discount? Well, then Igor is a little bit hamstrung. So as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking you could really probably look at it either way. Although I don't think Swayman should do that. I think this guy deserves his 8 years at a big fat number.
I agree. Also, I was looking at it too. My friend Evan Sporer, who works for BR Open Ice, tweeted earlier today. He tweeted out the percentage of the cap for every Stanley Cup starting goalie for the past 10 years. Are you interested in hearing it?
Yeah.
So Florida's, Bobrovsky, 8.35% this past year. Vegas, 2.6%. Colorado, 5.5%. Tampa Bay, 11.65%. Then Tampa Bay again, 4.3%. St. Louis and Pittsburgh's back-to-back cups, both entry-level goalies.
Let me ask you a question. So was Vasi, he must have gone into
he must have extended in between the years, would be my guess.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't have his contract memory on the top of my mind here, but I would think by the percentage, he signed the extension.
So it's like 50-50 is what you're saying. So it's kind of like some years it's been the guy who makes a shitload, and some years it's been, entry level types of guys. What I would be really interested to see, the guys who won on entry level contracts, what kind of deals did they get after that?
So that'd be like Matt Murray and Jordan Binnington.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't really feel like digging through that. But
I'll look for Binnington.
Look, it's a day old question. It's really split. I mean, Frank and I argue about this all the time. Like, I think if you have one of those stars, you pay him and you keep him, and if you don't, well, you're only trying to figure it out with less expensive guys because you don't have your hands on one of those superstar goaltenders. I mean, look how good Igor was in the playoffs this year. Look how good Jeremy Swayman was against Toronto this year. I mean, he single-handedly pretty much beats that team, right? The way that he plays. So I just think if you have one of those 8 or whatever that number is, one of those top 8 or 10, pay them, keep them happy, and do what you can to put players around them because you got a window.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. And just for the conversation, I looked up Binnington. He's making $6 million right now for another 3 years, and he's at a 6.8 cap it.
So he's a little higher, but not quite as high. He's in that upper 2/3 probably of all the guys that you read.
And Nick just said Matt Murray 3.75 times 3 was after his entry level.
Yeah. Okay. So, and if I remember correctly with Matt Murray, like he didn't play all season. He kind of took over late. In the playoffs. He kind of took over pretty late for Flower that year, and had his little run. And he hasn't had.
He was actually the third string too. I think Murray got hurt, then like Jeff Zatkoff came in and got hurt, and then Murray went in.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So not a lot of other news to get into, Johnny. That's kind of it. I'm glad we were able to get Tage to come on the show, and he gave us a little bit of time. And next week we'll be back next week. Obviously we got Labor Day weekend, and we'll have another one, and then I think our plan here is to start, doing some divisional previews, right? I think that's what we talked about, what we want to do, and bring some people on who have been covering these teams in the off season just to, get it from their perspective, a little bit of local flavor. And I think that's what we'll spend a lot of September doing, looking at divisional previews. It might bleed into October because obviously in October we still don't play until the first couple of days are done in October. So I think that's all we got for today, Johnny. I don't know if you have a final word for us.
I have one more thing. I want to shout out this fundraiser I'm playing in on Saturday. It's Hockey Helps, which hosts an annual 24-hour hockey marathon every Labor Day weekend to raise money for local charities. This year, it's all about suicide prevention. I'm teaming up with Larry and Zach Sprung. Larry's brother-in-law, Keith, passed away due to suicide many years ago, and I'm playing with them to, raise awareness for this and raise some money for their family. And since the inception of Hockey Helps, the marathon has actually raised over $6 million for local charities, which embody the Hockey Helps mission to help individuals struggling with addiction, mental illness, and cancer to provide support for children and youth facing economic disadvantages, illness, or related hardships. So the PWC is the driving force behind this event, along with the guys who play in the NHL like Adam Graves, Stefan Matteau, Aaron Asham, Benoit Hogue, Brian Mullen, Colton Orr, and many others. I'll be posting the link on my social media for people to donate. Obviously it's for a great cause. We're playing like 8 games in a 24-hour span. So, I'll be at the rink literally all day, try to mix a nap in between 2 of those games. We have like a 7-hour window between games, but it's like, nonstop hockey. So it's going to be a fun day, a long day, a tiring day, but it's all for a good cause. And I just wanted to shout out Larry and Zach Sprung. Really appreciate them reaching out to me and getting me involved in this. So it'll be pretty cool at Dix Hills Ice Arena on Saturday. So just wanted to shout out those guys. And if you're interested in donating or coming, I'll post more information on my Instagram story and Twitter and all that stuff.
I saw Frank tweeted something about that because I saw Frank that and I retweeted that because I was reading about it and I thought that was awesome. So hockey world, do your thing, help out, spread the word. Always a great community when we need that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And we are raising funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. That's the exact organization it's all going to. So, really appreciate everyone who does support these causes. They mean a lot to me too. I don't just do it to do it. This is one that, is close to me. So, I'm excited for Saturday. It should be a fun day, but that's all I really got.
Well, Vic, thanks as always. We're getting closer and closer to being back live with you guys every Monday through Thursday. Last week we did tease that we will have a player joining us once a week, same guy for a regular appearance on the show. We got a bunch of text messages, we got a bunch of DMs, a lot of people guessing. Keep those guesses coming. We'll let you know if you strike the chord. And then as we get closer to the regular season in October, we'll let you guys know who that is, but we're definitely very excited about it. That's all we got for today. We always appreciate you guys listening, and we will be back with you next week.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.